So good morning again, and I bring a humorous offering for you. We'll see how this goes. But I found a story about a lady that went to see her doctor for like an annual checkup, and she's there with the doctor, and they're going through some different things. He's taking measurements and blood pressure, check the reflexes and all that. The doctor turns to her and said, "Well, Miss Smith, everything is checking out pretty well, but I'd like to discuss with you some of your health goals for the next year." And she says, "Well, okay, doctor, I know what you're going to say, and I want you to know I'm not, that I'm worried about my height and not my weight." And the doctor says, your height, how come? And she says, "Well, according to my weight, my height should be about 8 feet 3 inches tall." All right. Yeah, I got a height problem too. Good. All right. Well, so we're going to get into John chapter 9, and we're going to go right away. So if you got Bibles or Kindles or phones or whatever, get ready. And you'll want to keep it open today because we're going to go through a lot of the chapter. We'll skip a little bit. It's a bit long, but it's just kind of one story. And so I want to go through all of it. It's a great story, too, that has just so much that we could glean from it. And so certainly just I pray that the Holy Spirit would just give us wisdom and insight, that He would show you what you need to hear and see today, even if I don't pick up on the part that He has for you. So John chapter 9, we're going to look at verse 1, and just watch. We're going to take a couple of breaks throughout the text. But in verse 1 it says, "As he passed by, he saw a man blind from birth. And his disciples asked him, 'Rabbi, who sinned, this man or his parents, that he was born blind?' Jesus answered, 'It was not that this man sinned or his parents, but that the works of God might be displayed in him.'" Now that's an interesting question the disciples would ask. And there's a popular belief at that time that this man's blindness was a punishment for sin, that he was stricken blind. And I think we know and generally accept today that sometimes things just go wrong. We understand that we face suffering and trials. We live in a fallen world. And there are pain, there are struggles. It just is a part of life. Still, we can also get caught up thinking like this, wondering why things went wrong, where things went wrong. Sometimes when life goes wrong, it can feel like God has forgotten us, or maybe God is even against us. Is God punishing me for something that I did? Is this something that's being brought on me? And it's easy for us to look at people going through hard times and assume that they're being punished for things that they've done wrong, that they are doing or shouldn't have done or should be doing or whatever. Well, it's just what you get. You get what you deserve. You reap what you sow. It can be easy for us to think that either upon ourselves or upon others when we see that life just doesn't go well. Whereas that sometimes might be the case. Sometimes it's true. Bad decisions bring bad consequences. It's interesting that Jesus takes a different road here. And Jesus is saying this man's problem of blindness is now going to be used to demonstrate the glory of God. It's going to bring glory to the Father. So in other words, Jesus is not saying that God has struck him blind and God has made him to live his whole life waiting for the moment that Jesus arrived for that day to perform a miracle and bring honor upon himself. And it's interesting, I think the text could kind of suggest that. But he's saying that instead, this suffering, this trial, this struggle that this man has is now going to be used to bring glory to God. Some suggest, if you want to look a little deeper at verse 3, there might be an issue of punctuation going on here. That when the disciples asked the question, who sinned, this man or his parents, Jesus might have been answering, neither one, not the man, not the parents, period. That's the answer to the question. And then going on in a new sentence, but that the works of God might be displayed in him. A new thought. That God's going to use this to bring glory to himself. You see, God uses our pain. He uses our trials. He uses life struggles to reveal His good works and His love for us. Maybe God is ready to do a miracle in the middle of your difficult situation right now. We talking the last series on breakthrough was all about that. That maybe God is ready to do something miraculous in your situation right now. That'd be awesome. So we trust Him and we seek Him and we keep moving towards Him, looking for what God's going to do. And maybe whatever you're facing, whatever this year has in store for you, or whatever you're going through, that maybe this is just a time to hang on to Him and see what He does. Other times, it's a time just to hang on to Him because it's the only way you're going to get through. And you're still going to go through the situation, but in it, you might find a closeness to God that you could never have found any other way. God even uses our trials and pain to forge new character and strength within us, to help us through the situations that we face, that we might emerge better on the other side. But whatever it is, when we face trials of any kind, it's an opportunity to see God in the midst of our suffering, in the midst of our situation. And so Jesus telling the disciples that day, it's not about blame and it's not about sin. It's about an opportunity to bring glory to God. Verse 4. We must work the works of Him who sent me while it is day. Night is coming when no one can work. As long as I am in the world, I am the light of the world. We did the Chasing Daylight series with Erwin McManus a few years back, and he said that now, while we have the opportunity, we must do all that we can to seek God and to serve God and bring the light of Jesus Christ to the world. We are chasing daylight. We have opportunity now. We have the chance. We have time. We have daylight, and so now we can work. You think back in Jesus' day, when nighttime came, the work was over. We might think of it hard. You may have a job where you work at nighttime. Or when you get off of your job and the sun's gone down and it's night, it's just time to go home and do more work at home, because we have lights in the house and we have the ability to get around and so on. But back in that day, imagine a single flame from an oil lamp in the corner of a room, and you could barely see to get around and just do a few of the things that needed to get done. There was no way to go out and work in the fields at night. There was no markets that you could go and visit. The offices and the businesses could not run all night long like we're used to or we often see. When night comes, no one could work. And Jesus is using that idea that at some point, every opportunity that we have today will be over. Night will come, and so now, while we have the chance, we must do all the work that we can, while we can. So look at what Jesus does for this man in verse 6. Having said these things, he spit on the ground and made mud with his saliva. And then he anointed the man's eyes with the mud and said to him, "Go wash in the pool of Siloam," which means sent. And so he went and he washed and came back seeing. So Jesus heals this blind man. Now he can see, and in the interest of time, we're going to skip down to verse 13. Because what happens after the man is made to see, the people start muttering, "How did this happen?" Well, you can imagine that, right? This miracle that takes place. And they're muttering that Jesus healed the man, and so now, because many are against Jesus, there's like a skepticism. Verse 13, they brought to the Pharisees the man who had formerly been blind. Now it was a Sabbath day when Jesus made the mud and opened his eyes. It was a Sabbath day. Right? I think I heard somebody say, you know what's coming. You can see it coming. Jesus healed a man on the Sabbath, and of course that broke the rules in the minds of the Pharisees. Verse 15. So the Pharisees asked him how he had received his sight, and he said to them, "He put mud on my eyes, and I washed, and I see." Some of the Pharisees said, "This man is not from God, for he does not keep the Sabbath." But others says, "How can a man who is a sinner do such signs?" And there was a division among them. And so they said again to the blind man, "What do you say about him? Since he has opened your eyes," he said, "he is a prophet." Think about what's going on here for a moment. They're using this man as a pawn in their plot, again, to trap Jesus. Again, to bring division, to bring accusation against him, to trap him, and to stop what he's doing. And they're divided, and they begin arguing over this issue that in their minds, Jesus broke the Sabbath. Okay, but what's really going on? Jesus took a blind man and made him to see. And they don't care. They don't recognize that. They don't see the glory of that, the wonder of that, the miracle of that. They just use it as another divisive tool to create an argument. Where's the wonder? Where's the thanksgiving? Where's the praise to God about what's happened? Can you imagine what's happening in the heart of this man? He's been blind since birth, and for the first time, he sees a sunrise, or a bird in a tree, or his parents that have cared for him his whole life, because he had no hope for himself. They have this man standing in front of them on trial, saying, "Tell us what happened. Well, who did this to you?" Like something evil has happened. And he says, "But I was blind and now I can see." And he says to them, "Only God can do that." And I think sometimes we miss the wonder of what God can and wants to do, because we're lost in the minutia of our situation. You see, God takes the hopeless and he gives them joy. He takes the lost and he shows them the way. When you've fallen down, Jesus can pick you up. When sin enters your life, he offers forgiveness. He takes what is broken and he puts life back together again. And instead of seeing that, these men are skeptical and they're critical and they're cynical, and all they want to do is argue over this technicality instead of finding the joy in what God has done. Isn't that amazing? Now, I know last week, Mark pointed out from chapter 8 that Jesus had called the Pharisees the children of Satan. So you can imagine why they were a little upset with him at this point. You could tell, you could see why they were kind of out to get him. And it's as he calls them that, and so he not only told them that they were children of Satan, he said that they were more interested in doing Satan's work than God's. Living their life for him than living their life for God. And well, that obviously made them angry. Ever notice how an angry person only sees what they want to see? Life goes red, and wisdom and rightness goes out the window. They only heard what they wanted to hear, and they couldn't find the wonder and the joy in this man's healing. But instead they take and put him on trial. Verse 18. The Jews did not believe that he had been blind and had received his sight. Okay, so now they're a different tactic here. They think maybe it's all a trick. Until they called the parents of the man who had received his sight. And asked him, "Is this your son whom you say was born blind? How then does he now see?" His parents answered, "We know that this is our son, and that he was born blind. But now he sees, or how he now sees, we do not know. Nor do we know who opened his eyes, so ask him, for he is of age. He will speak for himself." So this kind of goes on, and they go back and forth a little bit. And I would just challenge you, make sure you go back and read the whole story if you would today. But let's skip down to the man's answer in verse 30, because I think it's really an excellent answer. It's a wonderful thing that he says in verse 30. And the man answered, Why is this an amazing thing? You do not know where he comes from, and yet he opened my eyes. We know that God does not listen to sinners, but if anyone is a worshiper of God and does his will, God listens to him. Isn't that a great promise? If you seek the Lord and you live your life for him, he listens to you in your cries. Never since the world began has it been heard that anyone opened the eyes of a man born blind. If this man were from God, he could do nothing. And they answered him, you were born in utter sin, and yet you would teach us? They didn't get the answer they wanted, and they cast him out. They didn't want to hear it. The Pharisees, and I think this is a challenge for us today, church. The Pharisees were so lost in their rules and religious oppression, they no longer wanted to see the amazing works of God around them. The man was physically blind, and he was made to see that day. The others were spiritually blind, and they never received their sight. They never saw who God was, what God wanted to do, what God even did, because it didn't fit into their understanding. And I think that can happen. Our connection with God can become about rules, regulations, and responsibilities. And we just do the things we're expected to do. And we can lose the life that God intended for us in knowing him, in being close to him, and in seeing the wonder of Jesus Christ. The connection, the relationship. We can even walk with God a long time, and in the process we can become dry and empty. When Jesus promised that he was living water that can satisfy. Where are you today? Do you have that closeness with the Lord that just brings life and goodness? Jesus says to the church in Ephesus in Revelation chapter 2, I know your works, your toil, and your patient endurance, and how you cannot bear those who are of evil, but have tested those who call themselves apostles and are not, and have found them to be false. They're doing good works. They're walking in righteousness. They're patient. They're enduring. They're working. They're doing everything right. He even says, I know you are enduring patiently and bearing up for my name's sake. Hey, they're even bearing the name of Jesus Christ when nobody else wants to hear it. He says, but I have this against you. You have abandoned the first love that you had at first. Or you abandoned the love that you had at first. That passion, that zeal, that desire, that closeness with God. So I want to end today a little different. I asked for somebody to share their testimony today, and she's going to come up and do that. She shared a little bit just about, because I've just seen a passion in her, a desire for God. And it's that kind of passion that you say, I wish I had that closeness with the Lord, right? We have those people that just inspire us. And I just asked if she'd share her testimony, and I don't know what she's going to share, but I think it's going to be interesting. And then at the end of that, we're going to go back into just a short time of worship and sing the new song we did last week. But we've read most of this chapter, and I've shared a bunch of words. And I guess I ask you and challenge you, don't get lost in the information and miss the transformation that God has for you today. See, we could go back through all this, and we could argue a bunch of semantics, and we could pull out more things, and we could just pick this chapter apart forever and still miss the wonder of what Jesus Christ did in this man's life that day. What Jesus Christ wants to do in your life, or through your life, or around your life, even yet. So I'm going to invite Anita to come.
Yeah, so my name is Anita. There we go. Yeah. And Pastor Kerry just wanted me to share a little bit of my testimony. actually this August will be 5 years clean and sober from meth. And yeah. And a crazy life, really, is what it was. It's more the lifestyle I feel that I got lost in. Well, obviously the drugs have a lot to do with it. But reading chapter 9, the part that stood out to me the most of John, where it says, but it was that the work of God might be displayed in him. And that just really touched my heart, because I didn't grow up in a crazy home. I grew up in a very loving home. My parents got divorced when I was 12, but that's probably about the worst thing that's ever happened to me growing up. I was never raped. I was never molested. I was never beaten. And people would ask me, why did I do the things that I would do? And I honestly did not have an answer. Like, I just chose the life that I did. One day, drugs were offered, and I took it, and that's all that it took. But I didn't know God growing up. And the only thing that I could think of going through all of that is so this way God can use me as an example, and to bring light to those that are still lost. Because I was a weird one, you know, getting high. I stole from my grandma, like her credit cards, and stole her car. I've prostituted. And my family has seen all of it. And at first I was really ashamed that they had to go through all that they had to witness all of that. My younger brother Gabriel, he loves God now, and he goes to church, and he's a drummer on the worship team in California, which really makes me happy. But I feel like the only reason why he's that close is because he was able to see the power of God in my life. Because he was there when he would come in my room and wake me up and just be like, "Are you alive?" Because I'd be knocked out for 2 or 3 days. He would hear my mom screaming and yelling at me because I just got done stealing her purse or her camera or taking money, whatever it was. He was like first witness to that, but he was also first witness to my recovery, and he was also first witness to see the power of God and the love of God. And really just his mercy and his relentless pursuit after me, and the calling that he had on my life. And that means a lot to me. My grandma too, we grew up Catholic, but now she prays. Now she talks to me about God, which has never happened before. My Auntie Diane doesn't believe in God, but now she does. She'll call me asking for prayer. Like, all these people, because if you knew where I was at then, you would definitely not see the person that I am now. But that is just God's relentless love. And my Aunt Sandy growing up would always tell me, she was actually my outlet. I feel like she was my little angel. She was my outlet to God. And she would always tell me, you know, the reason why you go through all the stuff that you go through, Mija, is because God has a mighty calling on your life. And the enemy will do anything he can to stop that. Because once he sees the target, he is not going to stop, because he knows the people that you're going to reach, and he knows the things that you're going to do. And hearing her, it would mean something. It'd be like, okay, cool. But then I'd go out and go do what get high again. But coming to realize that, you know, her life quote, which is my life quote still, and I feel like it's a lot of people's, but it's Jeremiah 29:11. And she would always tell me, you know, God knows the plans he has for you. It's to prosper, and it's not to harm you. It's for plans of hope and a future, and for those that you're going to touch. And I see that now. Going through all the things that I went through, you know, it takes a lot of courage to stand up in front of a church, and not only that, but even just to outreach to people. You know, something that a lot of people don't, and that is, I can relate to those that are living out in the streets selling their soul for anything they can to get high. I can relate to those women who just feel so worthless that, you know, they feel like the only love that they're going to get is from a guy in a hotel that they don't even know. And you know, and it's tough because I see them and I just see me. But any chance I get, any opportunity I get, I just want to share their love because of where I'm at today, and let them know, you know, that there is someone that loves you, and you do have a better calling on your life. And there's more to life than what you're doing right now. And a lot of girls, you know, I don't like going back there. When God ever when God ever blesses me with opportunity, there's this young girl Jessica that comes with me every other weekend. She's 18 months. She celebrated 18 months clean in this Christmas, actually, and I got to spend that with her, so that was really fun. And she had went through pretty much the same things I'm going through, and she'll call me randomly, you know, and just talk to me. But every time she does, it brings up memories of my past, and I have to go to God and be like, okay, why are you bringing this back up? You know, and it's just to draw closer to him and for him to remind me of where he brought me from, where he pulled me out of, and to let me know. I feel like anytime he brings me someone like Jessica into my life, it's just to let me know that he does still have plans and he does still have a purpose in my life. And for me, I feel like I struggle with that. I'll talk to Pastor Carrie every now and then, and I struggle sometimes with putting God first, or with getting in and reading the Word. Right now, personally in my life, I am going through some stuff, but it's more financial things than anything. My car, not being able to make rent. But I was going crazy, like my poor husband. Like, I was just going crazy trying to figure out how we're going to do all this, and he's just so calm all the time. And just recently, maybe the last 2 months, I have been barely making rent, but I'm making it. I got $100 from a friend out of nowhere. She just blessed me with it. And it's like, my focus, though, has been on waking up every morning and focusing on God, because he is the only one that's going to get me through anything that I go through. And I have been reading in 2 Corinthians chapter 1, and it just talks about how God is our comforter. And the word comfort, how in that context it means strength. And he will provide us strength through anything it is that we're going through, whether it be relationship issues, drug issues, even just trying to make rent issues, or whatever it is that you're going through, worth. He is the one that you want to draw near to. And everything I've been reading, church services last week, at Real Life that I go to sometimes, was about how Jesus is the vine and how we need to stay connected to him. And that is one of the people ask how I've stayed clean so long, because meth, if you know it, it is just like the devil's advocate. And the only people I know that come out of that are people that are now just sold out for God, because he is the only one that could break that chain, and he is the only one that can rescue you from that and take that addiction from you. And so it was just, and so for me, I've just been learning how much it means to be close to God, because he is my comforter, he is my strength, he is my rock, he is my salvation, he is my refuge. He is the only one that has given me the strength to endure, and not just to endure with my head down and to be like, okay, this is what I'm going through now. No, he gives you that power and that strength to endure, to be like, you got this, there's a light at the end of that tunnel, and I'm going to pull you through it. And if you're sinking, just keep your eyes on me, because we are going to walk on water together, but you have to stay focused on me. And the only way that you can do that is by dedication, and dedicating your time to him, and drawing close to him and drawing near to him. Because I promise you, when rent was coming short, and when I was just going through, God, I have these bills to pay, the first thing that comes to my mind and my flesh is going to be my old habits of, okay, I know how to make money quick, I could do this. But I had to draw, and I was sharing that with my husband, but I had to draw close to God and wake up every morning and search him, and he just provides like a crazy amount, and not even just provision like money, but he provides what you need. And that may not just be money or physical things in the world. It could be spiritual strength, comfort, perseverance, So I think I just wanted to share that to encourage you guys. The reason why my sobriety has lasted this long is because I have God in my life, and because I stay focused on him. And even when I just get mad at him, because trust me, I do. I get so mad at him sometimes, and angry and frustrated, and like, why are you doing this to me now? Why are we going through this again? We already did this. It's not because he hates you, or because he just wants to, as my mother-in-law, go nana nana boo boo, because I can. Like, that is not it. I promise you. It's because he wants to draw you deeper, and he wants to get to know you on a more intimate level. And the only way you can get to know him intimately is by wrestling with him and just releasing into his arms and allowing him to take you through those things that he wants to take you through, because he is going to bring you out way stronger than you ever thought. And he does have, the enemy does come to only steal, kill, and destroy, but he has come to give us life, but not just life. He's come to give us life more abundantly. And that is an amazing word, because he doesn't just want you to live this life. He wants you to live it to the fullest. And it is a struggle, especially in today's world, but I promise you, if you just keep God first and you know that in your heart that he has his best interest, that whatever you're going through, he is going to pull you out of it. And it's not only just for you. It's not just so you can get deeper with him. It's because those around you that are watching you are going to want to know how you were able to get through it, or how you had strength to go through that, or wait, weren't you just this way yesterday? Why are you so happy today? It's because people are watching. As Christians, people watch you, and they want to see how you get through it. Like, you know, they know you're getting persecuted, but they want to see how you're going to come out of it. And that is an open door and an open opportunity for you to witness to them that it's my God that got me through that. Yes, I was down yesterday, but today I am up and I'm running and I'm good because I serve an amazing God. And I think just a reminder, I guess, even just for me, really, that it's going to be okay and that God got your back. And I always used to tell the youth in California, he is a go green God. He does not waste anything. He loves to recycle, and whatever you're going through, it's not just going in the trash. He's going to use it, I promise you. So yeah, I'll go past Gary because I could be up here all morning talking.
So the worship team is going to come back up, and we're just going to close this morning. And maybe Robbie can help me get the 5 questions up on there. We've been putting them up each week this month. And just let you kind of prayerfully consider those. And especially just, you know, we learned a new theological principle this morning, that God does not go in, poop, poop. He doesn't. But instead, he loves you, and he is with you, and he is helping you. He is always good. And so whatever you might be going through, what, you know, the questions, you know, what's your biggest source of struggle and pain right now? Or what's your greatest opportunity as you look at the year ahead? We learned this song last week, and it just gives you an opportunity just to come to the Lord, because he is good and loving. And if you are facing a trial, you can know that he's with you. So when we stand, I want to have a word of prayer, and we'll just seek what he wants to do.